Hello, and welcome back to Grumpy Old Grognard's Attic. Well, I hope you liked my nice clickbaity title. So I'm going to start this with a big announcement. I'm going pro. I'm going to try my hand at professional DMing. I want to grow the channel. Can't afford to do that on my fixed income. Don't get me wrong, I'm not poor by any stretch of the imagination, but YouTubing can get expensive, and I'm having a great time with it, and I want to keep doing it. So I'm going pro. And if anyone's interested in joining an old school role-playing game, there is a link down below to one of my games. Feel free to sign up. This is going to be old school. Okay, I'm going to be using Fantasy Grounds. It's going to be online. And, well, I hope you all give us a join. We're going to be using 2nd edition. I tried to get 1st edition running. There's an Osric plugin. It's not reliable enough. Every time they update, it takes the Osric plugin a little while to catch up. So, not quite going to... I think we're going to stick with the 2nd edition, the officially supported rule set. I thought about switching to... Castles and Crusades when, old white guys were invited to leave. But then I thought about it, and you know what? Old white guys have been invited to leave the OSR for, the whole OSR. They've been trying to tear it down for a generation now. So really, I have no intention of obliging them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue to use Dungeons & Dragons, 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons, which was, in my opinion, one of the better editions of Dungeons & Dragons, certainly better than anything Wizards of the Coast has ever made. Now, if you're an old Grognard and you want to join, that would be awesome, okay? If you've never played Dungeons & Dragons before and you want to give it a try, that would be awesome. I love newbies. No kids. Sorry, this is an adult game. No kids. If you are a 5th edition player and you just want to stick your toe into Dungeons & Dragons, please give it a try. I want you to come into this expecting a high turnover. My campaign is not everybody's cup of tea. So now that I've made that announcement that I am officially making myself a professional dungeon master, now it's time for me to remind you why you tuned into this video. Because quite frankly, something I've noticed, professional dungeon masters suck. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why. Okay? There's 2 types of professional dungeon masters. Okay? The first type, that's the one everyone's already talking about. And quite frankly, I think that they are kind of a problem in terms of setting player expectations too high. Or shall I say, just wrong. I think they set player expectations just wrong. But I think that of the 2 different types of professional dungeon masters, I think that the streamers, I'm talking about the streamers here, are far less insidious. They do set messed up standards for what a role-playing game is supposed to look like. I don't blame them for that. Here's the deal. A live stream or a streaming a game is not Dungeons & Dragons, okay? Let's be very real about what's going on here. This is a show, and everybody involved knows that this is a show, okay? The focus of a streamer's game is not to run a good Dungeons & Dragons game, okay? The streamer's priority is to run a game that's entertaining for the people watching it. And what's entertaining for the people watching the game is not, as a rule, what's entertaining for the people playing the game. Now, the people playing the game are willing to go along, play along, go along and get along, because they are part of the show, and they know that. So they are acutely aware that they are not the focus of the Dungeon Master's attention, and they should not be the focus of the Dungeon Master's attention. Their job is not to play Dungeons and Dragons. Their job as players is to entertain the audience. Now, I'm not going to stick my toe into the whole, Matt Mercer's Critical Role shows are scripted and everyone knows in advance exactly what's... I don't know if that's true. I think it's probably not true. I don't think that a show like Critical Role could reasonably be scripted. You don't know what the dice are going to come up. You can't script something like that. No, I don't believe that Critical Role is a teleplay. I believe that the Critical Role is a commedia dell'arte. It's improvisational comedy. My printer just cooling down. Commedia dell'arte was a very old form of improvisational Italian comedy. It was performed on the steps of churches long before the age of radio. It was a medieval form of entertainment. The actors would take on character tropes, templates. I did a little. I was an actor back in my day. I was Pantalone. Even back then, when I was 20, I was cast as the dirty old man. And that was Pantalone. He was the dirty old man. The guy who couldn't quite let go of his youth. And they called him Pantalone because they refused to buy new stockings. And his stockings were always hanging off him because he was old and he was skinny and he couldn't fill out his stockings anymore. So he was Pantalone. And the whole thing about Commedia dell'arte is basically Commedia dell'arte, is basically what's going to happen. There's no script, but there's a story, right? So you play along with the story, and every actor just improvises his part all the way through. And if you find a joke that hits and the audience laughs, and you just do it again next time. And these performances evolve. They're not written. They just kind of grow. And that way, and they change with the audience. Over time, you learn how to adjust your performance to appeal to the audience du jour. And that's how I think Critical Role is. It's improvisational. But it's still a performance. So the reason I don't think it's important whether or not Critical Role is scripted is because it literally doesn't matter. That's not the point. The problem with Critical Role is that it's, in terms of using it to model your game after, is that it is a show. And everyone involved knows that it's a show. And whether it's scripted or not, they're not there to play Dungeons and Dragons. They're there to entertain their audience. And that is a fundamentally different experience than actually playing Dungeons and Dragons. So if you're out there trying to emulate Matt Mercer as your Dungeon Master, that's going to be a disaster. It's going to be awful. It's going to be terrible. There's a lot of reasons for that, and I'll get into some of those. Now, I'm not saying Matt Mercer's a bad Dungeon Master. In fact, okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like live streams, okay? Don't watch live streams. Said it before, and I'll say it again. I would much rather work on my own campaign than watch other people have fun. Okay, so no, I don't watch live streams. I have tried to watch Critical Role on multiple occasions. Don't. If you ever decide you want to watch Critical Role, don't start with season 1, episode 1, because they're going to make you sit through this incredibly long tape where all these people give these stupidly long backstories. It is so boring. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure that these people worked hard on their backstories, but you know what? I don't care. I just didn't want to watch it. But I have tried to tune in just some of the regular live plays too. I get bored. I just get bored. It's live play. It's not interesting to me. The voices are amazing. They're good performers, but the idea of sitting and watching other people play Dungeons and Dragons is just not that exciting to me. But that doesn't mean that Matt Mercer is a bad Dungeon Master. I have watched a number of his YouTube videos. Before Critical Role took over his life, Matt Mercer made a lot of videos that were instructional. And I've watched almost all of his videos that are not Critical Role. And the guy's got skills and the guy's got talent. I'll bet when he actually runs a game that's not on TV, I bet he runs a great game. Okay? I just don't want to watch the ones he puts on TV because I find them boring. Okay? Now, why are they boring? Well, A, they don't feel organic. Okay? They just don't. I'm sorry. It feels like a performance. It doesn't feel like an actual game. That's a deal breaker for me. Beyond that, and this is one of the things that I think the streamers have done that really damages the hobby, is they have created a gaming philosophy in which the dungeon master is a storyteller. Now, those of you who've been watching me for a while, you know how I feel, but I've had a lot of new followers in the last month, so I'm just going to get this one out of the way. If you are a dungeon master, you are not a storyteller. That is not your job. Stop. Just stop doing that, okay? Your job is to provide a setting, is to provide a world, is to provide lore, is to provide a place for the player characters to write their own story. Okay? Is this messy? Oh, yeah. Is it hard? Oh, yeah. Would it be particularly interesting to watch on a live stream? No, probably not. No, probably not. Because it involves a lot of the players throwing curveballs at the dungeon master that he's not prepared for, and forcing him, the dungeon master has to start improvising at that point too. I don't care whether or not you think Matt Mercer's show is scripted. You can bet your ass that it is prepared. Okay, the module, the set pieces, the miniatures, all that stuff is prepared in advance before the show. There are no curveballs getting thrown, and we'll get to that, okay? So, a good dungeon master is not a storyteller. A good dungeon master provides the place for the players to write their own story, okay? The players are the storytellers. The dungeon master just provides everything else that they need to tell that story, okay? And the dungeon masters that do consider themselves storytellers, I got to tell you guys, I've played a couple of your games, and you guys are awful. You're awful. You talk and 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 talk, and that gets really boring. Nobody wants to listen to you talk. Okay? You're not Matt Mercer, by the way. You're not even that good at it. Okay? Stop talking all the damn time. Close your mouth. Listen to the players and listen and try to understand what they want. Okay? That's what a good dungeon master does. Doesn't tell stories. Okay? Just don't do that. Okay? You're setting yourself up for failure. If you watch Critical Role, and again, I haven't watched a lot of it, but you know what I have noticed about it? That, when I do watch it for 30 minutes at a time before I get bored and change the channel, they do a lot of social interactions, right? It's very social, their game. A lot of games are like that, okay? But they are professional voice actors, okay? They are professional entertainers, right? And they're not playing this game to have fun. They're playing this game to put on a show, okay? So this game is not going all social because it's what the players want. It's what the players find satisfying. It's what the players find fun. That's not why they're doing it. They're doing it because you like it as the audience. And that's fine. Just understand that that's not what a real Dungeons and Dragons game is. Okay? Yeah, Matt Mercer is a storyteller. He's a good one. Okay? And when you're watching a video, you want a story. You want to see it unfold. But when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, you don't want to have to just walk through a series of predetermined events that the Dungeon Master has written out in advance so that he can tell his story. Okay? The players want to have their choices to have agency. They want their choices to matter. They want to be able to influence the outcome of events. And you can't do that if you're just running through the Dungeon Master's story. It feels like the players are just there along there for the ride. And the Dungeon Masters, oh my God, the Dungeon Masters. These guys need to go write a novel. Okay? Descriptions, narratives, monologues. You leave the players sitting around doing nothing, waiting for a little tiny chance to do a little bit of role playing. And it doesn't really matter what they do because the next scene is going to happen anyway because the Dungeon Master wants to tell his story. Okay? If you are dungeon mastering a streaming event, okay, and a player dies, or a player is late, or a player just joins halfway through the game, okay, this is a show, okay, so you can just leave that player on the sidelines, right, until a good time comes to introduce them to the campaign. Because it makes a better story for the audience. But in a real Dungeons and Dragons game, you're just being an asshole. Okay? This person took time out of their life. And time, guys, I don't know, maybe you watch my videos, maybe you don't, but time is the most precious thing you have. And somebody gave up their time to join your campaign, and you're going to leave them sitting on a couch, twiddling their thumbs and playing with their phone for 2 hours while the perfect time comes up for you to introduce them to the campaign. Dude, fuck you. You're an asshole. Okay? So the talkie, great for TV, not so much for the game. Not so much for the actual players. I mean, yeah, social interactions are great. Have them. Make that part of your game. A lot of players want that. It's got to be a part of your game. But, just maybe mix in a little bit of combat. Maybe throw in a little bit of exploration on top of that. Okay? Don't be a storyteller. Okay? You do not. Matt Mercer has an unwritten agreement. It's probably at this point even a written agreement with his players. Look, I want you to have fun. I want you to do what you want to do that you think is going to be fun for your character. We are here to put on a show about Dungeons and Dragons, and if we're all working super hard and sweating and looking grim, that's not going to sell well, right? We want you to have fun, but don't throw any curved balls at Matt. Okay? Stick to the story. If he throws out a hook, bite it. Okay? Now, this is not an agreement that I have with my players. If I throw out a hook and you don't want to bite it, don't bite it. That's your call. That's your player agency. That's your freedom. It's the only freedom you've got. I'm the setting. I'm the monsters. I'm the NPCs. I'm everything else in the world. The only agency you have is over your own player. Use it. Okay? And Dungeon Masters, don't take that away from them. Okay? Don't be a dick. Okay? Don't throw scripted events at your players. Okay? That's something you can do in a stream. Hey, here's the deal. Right? Secret. You are such and such and such and such. And then you're going to leap out and you're going to betray the players. Don't do that. Okay? Don't do that. You're just going to create bad feelings amongst your players. Okay? The only thing the players have, the only thing that they've got is themselves, is their character. That's all they've got. Don't strip them of that. Don't. Again, if you do, you're just being an asshole. Okay? Now, when you're streaming a game, the story is important. When you're running a game, their story is important. The game is what matters. So let the players do what they want, even if it wanders away from or changes the story, right? So streamers, stream, have fun, put on a good show, but it is harmful to dungeon masters to see this and try to emulate it, because what they're doing to make a good show does not necessarily make for a good game. Okay? So when I say professional dungeon masters suck, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about where the streamers are concerned. The real problem with professional dungeon masters are the guys who are literally just professional dungeon masters. The guys who get paid to run games, okay? The pay-to-play dungeon masters are even worse. The damage they do to the community may not be as obvious, but it is far more insidious. The damage they do. The damage we do. Okay? And the problem that we have with this is that it's not a game. Okay? When a professional dungeon master is running a game, he's not running a game. It's not, you're not playing Dungeons and Dragons. You're running a one-act show using Dungeons and Dragons as a backdrop, as an excuse. Okay? The players become the audience when you have a professional dungeon master, because the players are paying you, right? So if now if you upset them, if they leave, they're not going to pay you anymore. So you need to craft you need to make the campaign what they want it to be. Okay? Now that might sound on the surface, right? That sounds awesome, right? DM will do whatever I want him to do. Okay? But here's the thing. That's not a game. Okay? If the dungeon master is just pandering to his audience, which in this case is the players, you're not playing Dungeons and Dragons. You're playing a ritualized version of what small children call make-believe. Because nothing that happens on the board really matters, right? The DM isn't running the game to challenge you. He's not running the game to give you an exciting experience, unless that's what you're looking for. I mean, he's not running the game to give you a good game. He's running the game to entertain you. Okay? And it's a different experience. Okay? Because if the dungeon master is running the game to entertain you, you can get anything you want. And he'll bend over backwards to make it happen. As long as you're not stepping on his other players, you can be or do anything you want. And that if that appeals to you, great. Do not sign up to my game below, because you will not like my game if that's what you want. I'm trying to write a game. And I'll get into that in a minute. Okay? If that's the experience you want, great. But there's a problem beyond that goes into the community, and it has become what I consider probably the most horrific problem that infects the hobby right now. That is the way you treat your dungeon masters. Okay? If you have a professional dungeon master and you want to rewrite his world because you want to have a certain character and it's a wonderful character, it doesn't quite fit into your world, so let's tweak it a little bit. Professional dungeon master is going to say yes because he wants your money. Okay? But if you're running an actual game and the character you want doesn't fit into the lore, the dungeon master is going to say no. And there is this really messed up attitude that's starting to filter into mainstream gaming, that this is actually the dungeon master's job is to give the players anything they want. And if you can't do that, or if you won't do that, you're a bad DM. No, man. No, that's just not true. Let me explain something to you. And this doesn't apply to me so much because, like I said, I am going to start taking money, but I am not going to let the players run the campaign. Okay? But if somebody is taking out his time and not getting paid, and you're treating him like the table gimp, guys, is it any wonder there are no 5th edition Dungeon Masters when y'all insist on treating the Dungeon Master as your bitch? The Dungeon Master is not your bitch. He's a player at the table, just like you, who's there to have fun. Okay? Now, think about it. What possible fun can there be in being a Dungeon Master? Right? Well, here's the fun part of being a Dungeon Master. You get to build a world. You get to create a place, a setting, lore, non-player characters. You get to build Middle Earth. And that's fun for a Dungeon Master. Not everybody thinks this is fun, but for a Dungeon Master, this is fun. Okay? That's the joy we get from the game. And you think you should be able to just waltz in and say, but I want to be a cute goblin. No, I want to be a good goblin. And I want to live in a village of good goblins. Rewrite the campaign to make goblins the good guys. Yeah, no. Okay? No. If you've got a professional DM who really needs your money, he'll take care of you. Go pay somebody. But if you've got a guy who's been spending the whole week poring over books and writing adventures and building worlds for you, and he shows up at the table and you say that, you're an asshole. You're being the asshole at that point. You are just a dick. Okay? Don't do that. The Dungeon Master's joy in the game is the world building. That's his place. That's his domain. Okay? Don't fuck with it. Don't be a dick. Okay? Your fun doesn't trump his. The Dungeon Master is not the table's bitch. The Dungeon Master is another player at the table, and his fun matters too. And this is why I think that the most dangerous and insidious damage being done to the hobby, the reason, like a primary reason that you are having difficulties in 5th edition getting Dungeon Masters, is because of this oddly prevailing attitude that the Dungeon Masters don't matter. It's just their job to do whatever you want them to do. Newsflash, it's not a job. Being a Dungeon Master is a passion, and you strip them of that. When you come at them expecting them to be your servant, and you're not even paying them? Seriously. Now, this is a short video because I've pretty much said what I need to say. But I do want to encourage anyone who wants to try old school gaming. And here's the difference, right? Most of these professional dungeon masters, they do this for a living. I'm just an old retiree who's doing this for fun. and try to put a little extra money on the side so I can get a microphone so you don't have to turn the volume all the way up so you can hear me, and I don't have to yell and wake up my family so that you can hear me, right? So that's why I'm going to start trying my hand at some professional dungeon mastering. But I'm not going to be the professional dungeon master that I just described. If that's what you're looking for, you're not going to have any fun at all. But if what you're looking for is to recreate the old experiences you used to have when you used to play old school Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, come on along. If you're having trouble finding a group, come on along. I will be playing on Fantasy Grounds. I have an ultimate license. You don't have to pay anything. I'll bring everything you need to the game. If you're a 5th edition player that wants to try something new, a completely new philosophy in gaming, please sign up. I am familiar with 5th edition, and I didn't care for it, but I ran a campaign for 2 years and my players had a great time. But I honestly believe that you're going to have a better time doing this if you're okay with occasionally having to write a new character, because in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, characters periodically die. Okay? What else? Newbies. Look, no kids. Okay, I run an adult campaign. This campaign in particular is an adult campaign. I have a roadmap in the future. There's going to be some Castles and Crusades coming up. There's going to be some Call of Cthulhu coming up. There's also going to be an occasional one-shot, and these will be kid-friendly one-shots. Like every other Wednesday, I'm going to start running kid-friendly one-shots. But that's way down the road. Okay, so if they, if you're a newbie, like you just want to try Dungeons and Dragons, come on aboard, but 18 or over, please. And take a look at the trigger warnings, because quite frankly, my trigger warnings are all of them. Okay? It doesn't really matter what your trigger is. You do, if you join this campaign, run the risk of running into it. That doesn't mean this is a anything goes campaign. In fact, I will not allow evil characters to join the campaign. I will not tolerate immature juvenile behavior. I expect everybody to behave as respectful, responsible adults. But that does not mean that you get to come to me and say, "Oh, but I'm triggered by this one theme, and I don't want it in the campaign because no." Okay? If you're that sensitive, this is just not the game for you. Okay? So, link below. Please sign up. First come, first serve. Expect a high turnover. This game is not going to be for everybody. So, I'm expecting a slow start. 5th edition games, it's nearly impossible. You have to beat the players off with a stick. Newer editions, not so much. Right? So, we'll just see what happens. If you want to play, sign up, and we'll just ride it and see what happens. Again, I'm not in it for the money. I just want to have some fun. Okay? And I hope that you want to join me. That's it for now. Thank you so much for your time, because time is the most precious gift God gave you. I love you for giving so much of it to me. And game on, level up, peace out, and I'll see you soon.